7 months ago, my entire world shattered. I discovered that my spouse had been having an affair with someone we considered a good friend. This was a man who stood by us at our baby shower, shared concert tickets with us, and went on weekend hiking trips with our family. He had a fiancée of his own, someone he had treated terribly for years, though he always maintained he would never actually leave her. As devastating as the initial discovery of the affair was, the deepest betrayal, the part that completely altered my view of my spouse's morality, came later. My friends, the greatest pain in life happens when someone of your own, someone you trusted more than yourself, stabs you in the back. This story isn't just about a common act of cheating. It is about a mindset where a person, solely for their own temporary pleasure, puts another person's life, health, and entire existence at stake. Up until exactly 7 months ago, I truly believed my life was absolutely perfect. I had a beautiful family, a wife I loved with all my heart, and a close circle of friends where we always stood by each other through thick and thin. Among those friends was this one particular, very close friend. He was a man who was part of every single important milestone in our lives. When we were expecting a new member of our family, he stood right at the front during our baby shower. We attended countless concerts together, went on hiking trips, and shared moments where I genuinely believed this friendship would last a lifetime. How could I have known that the very person I opened my home to like a brother was secretly casting a predatory eye on the most precious part of my life behind my back? This man had a fiancée of his own, whom he had been in a relationship with for several years. However, his behavior toward his fiancée had always been utterly awful and unfair. We all witnessed it and constantly told him that he needed to respect her. He would always reply with a single statement: "No matter what happens, I will never leave my fiancé." Back then, I thought that even if he was flawed, at least he was committed to his relationship. But unfortunately, loyalty wasn't in his nature. Only deceit and lust. To truly understand the depth of this betrayal, we have to go back in time a little bit. About 3 years ago, during a routine medical checkup, we discovered that my wife had a highly contagious and serious medical condition. It was the kind of illness that hides silently inside the human body and slowly causes internal damage over time. Because both of us had a sexual past, we could never definitively determine who gave it to whom. As a husband, I acceptingly assumed that if my wife had this illness, I must carry the germs as well. But at that time, instead of abandoning my wife or doubting her, I chose to be a true partner. I told her that whatever happened was in the past, and we would fight through this difficult time together. We started treatment and moved forward with our lives. However, the story doesn't end there. The impact of this condition ran deep. Fast forward 2.5 years later, and her health suddenly took a drastic turn for the worse. It escalated to the point where, due to severe complications from the illness, she had to undergo a major surgery. This surgery meant that the illness was still actively present in her body. Those germs were still inside her, fully capable of easily infecting anyone else. It was a medical condition that everyone involved knew could eventually lead to life-threatening illnesses, including cancer. We lived under the shadow of this constant fear, but I always stood as a shield for my wife, supporting her at every turn. Now we arrive at the most horrific and sickening truth of all, the part that completely shattered my worldview and my perception of my spouse. When my wife and this terrible friend were conducting their affair, both of them were fully, completely aware of her medical condition. They knew she had just recently undergone surgery and was actively dealing with this serious illness. Yet, their selfishness and lust were so overpowering that they didn't just betray me behind my back. They willfully and deliberately chose to be intimate without any form of protection. Just think about that. A man who knows perfectly well that the woman he is with has an illness that cannot even be accurately or easily tested in men, and who knows he can easily pass this condition onto any other woman. That man willingly throws himself into that exact danger. Why? Just for a few moments of cheap, fleeting pleasure. But the most painful part wasn't just him. My absolute deepest agony was my own wife. The woman I built a family with, the woman whose pain kept me awake at night, actively participated in this disgraceful act as an equal partner. My wife fell so deeply into his manipulative trap that she became emotionally obsessed with him. She reduced herself to a tricked side woman, genuinely believing that this man would leave his fiancée and come to her. But the man did exactly what toxic people do. Once his selfish desires were met, he bluntly told my wife, "I don't have those kinds of feelings for you. We should just stay friends." She was used, she was discarded, and that is when this entire ugly game finally unraveled. When I found out about everything, the ground beneath my feet gave way. I didn't know who to be more furious with, the friend I trusted like a brother, or the wife I loved more than life itself. A massive, intense confrontation took place between us. In the heat of that anger, a lot of harsh words were exchanged. But let me make one thing absolutely clear. I have never laid a hand on a woman, and I never will. I am not the kind of man who proves his masculinity through violence. I quietly packed my bags and left that house, walking away from that fake life forever. I shifted into a separate place, but the fire burning inside me refused to go out. The same agonizing questions replayed in my mind day and night. I started therapy just to find a way out of this crushing mental stress. During therapy, as my mind began to clear, a profound realization hit me. I realized the situation wasn't just confined to the betrayal I experienced. That man, who had intentionally exposed himself to my wife's illness and carried those severe risks away with him, was still living with his innocent, unsuspecting fiancée. My blood boiled when I thought about that poor girl. What was her fault? She had absolutely no idea that her future husband was coming back to her carrying dangerous, life-altering health risks from his secret escapades. Her health, her life, and her entire soul were being put in extreme jeopardy. I couldn't sit back and watch. I tracked down his fiancée and told her every single piece of the truth. I messaged her and exposed exactly what kind of a monstrous person her fiancé truly was. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. Every single time I discovered they were trying to secretly stay in touch or interact behind her back, I warned her again, ensuring she would never forget that this man was actively gambling with her life, a broken heart and shattered hope. This entire trauma has permanently altered my view of humanity and morals. I genuinely thought I knew my wife's core character. I believed that even if the world turned upside down, she could never stoop this low. She didn't just desecrate our marriage, and she didn't just degrade herself for a cheap thrill. She willfully participated in something that brought another innocent woman's life to the brink of absolute destruction. She knew about the fiancé. She knew what his true intentions were. Yet she willingly stood by him as a co-conspirator in this sin. Today, we are going to couples therapy. We are trying to see if this broken relationship can somehow be pieced back together, primarily because we have a family, a child whose entire future hangs in the balance. But I will admit this openly to all of you today. I am going to therapy, but a devastating conclusion has permanently settled in the corners of my heart. I don't think I will ever look at my wife and believe she is a good person again. I might move forward in life, but fully, truly trusting her ever again is something that is simply no longer possible for me.